biggest question mark, and I like what they did with the decor, but Timothy Liljegren. I understand, it's only been, it's been 7 years actually. It's kind of crazy. 7 years after he was drafted in the first round. But he's now got another contract. I understand, younger right shot defensemen are not that easy to find on the trade market. I get that, but Liljegren, this is a guy who was scratched in the playoffs, and it's happened more than once. Um, you know, what do you take on? Because it seems like his relationship with the Leafs, and it seems as though other guys in the dressing room. Obviously, I'm not in the dressing room, but it seems as though he's kind of on the outs with a few people in this organization. What did you make of that contract?
Yeah, definitely not a fan. I mean, you kind of go back to that day, and it was like Max Domi, hometown discount a bit, and then it kind of just like the trickle down effect of the Liljegren contract and the term you gave out. So, you know what? I think with the Liljegren situation, and this is really like sad to say, but I think it's the perspective of the NHL and left shot versus right shot defenseman. I go back to the decision to trade Rasmus Sandin, and obviously you get an Easton Cowan draft pick out of it, which was great. But I don't think the Leafs trade Rasmus Sandin over Timothy Liljegren if Rasmus Sandin is a right shot defenseman. And even Brad Treliving, after they drafted Ben Danford at the draft, his first reasoning, it was just like it was at the tip of his tongue. He goes, he's a right shot defenseman. They're hard to come by in this league. And I have a really tough time having an understanding that that's a huge decision-making factor for you to re-sign a guy like Timothy Liljegren because he's a right-shot defenseman, because you lack right-shot defensemen. Well, here's the thing. Now you've got Timothy Liljegren. Now you've got Connor Timmins. You've got to make a decision. I have a very hard time believing that both of those guys are going to start with the Leafs come October. I think Connor Timmins has shown some signs of brilliance, some signs of potential, and Timothy Liljegren has shown that for a long time. But as you just said, it's been 7 years since he's been a first-round draft pick. And I think the only thing that's been keeping him around this organization is the fact that he's a right-shot defenseman. So throughout the season before his injury against Boston, he did show great signs when he got those licks on the top power play unit and he was getting that 5-on-5 time with the best players. He's one of those guys that Brad Treliving and even the staff in Toronto have been talking about. He's one of those guys that can get the puck quickly up to the forwards, and I think that's kind of why you bring in a guy like Oliver Ekman-Larsson versus keeping a guy like Joel Edmondson. A guy like Edmondson, you're going to get that consistent, hard-playing defensive play versus Oliver Ekman-Larsson, a bit of size, 6'2", but he's also going to be able to distribute it to the forwards quite easier than an Edmondson who's a puck off the glass kind of guy. So it's the same thing with Liljegren, right? He's going to be that guy that has mistakes, a higher risk, but he creates more of those offensive, I would say, transition plays. So I think you try to still move on from Liljegren because now that right side, you still have a couple guys now that can fill that top four role. Jake McCabe can play the right side. Connor Timmins, only $1.1 million cap hit. He can play on the bottom pair. Liljegren, at a $3 million cap hit, combined now with Ekman-Larsson's new cap hit, one of those guys are going to be on the bottom pair, and I just don't think the Leafs can afford a cap hit like that, or possibly two cap hits like that on the bottom pair. So I think you still look into a Timothy Liljegren trade this offseason, and maybe it's involving a trade for a forward.